Welcome back to the Apatros Review. In this episode, The Eye, the 2008 remake, not the original. Hi there, welcome back to the Apatros Review. I'm your host, Mila Sipka, and join me as I take you in the wild world through the science fiction, action, horror genres, all from my personal collection. I got like 1,200 DVDs, so this is going to be a while. Now, this episode we do the film The Eye, which is one of a spate of Asian Ghost Story remakes that Hollywood made from around the early 2000s up until early 2010s. Now, this particular one, this is another one of the remakes made from ghost stories coming from the Asian continent. This is a rejig of the Pang brothers' Seeing Ghosts. The original title is called Seeing Ghosts, but more commonly known in English language as The Eye, which is by far one of the most least effective of the 2000s remake fad. This time around, the recipient of the psychically gifted cornea transplant that was chronicled in the first film is solo violinist Sydney Wells, played by Jessica Alba, who has been blind since the age of 5 after an accident caused by her and older sister being careless with the fireworks they were playing with. This time around, Wells initially gets along well with her new eyes, but when the inevitable ghosts begin appearing in the still adjusting peripheries of her vision, Wells begins to believe that cellular memory has been passed on from her donor, a Mexican woman who had the gift of second sight and who committed suicide after locals branded her a witch, and attempts to solve the mystery, which she does with the help of her eye specialist, who technically commits an unethical act by accessing the donor's confidential information, and after laying the donor's soul to rest, finds herself intervening to save a group of people on a bus at the US-Mexican border from an exploding fuel tanker at the cost of her new eyes. This is pretty much an average retread of the original film. Its spookiness dialed down to fit the PG-13 market of witless 13-year-olds and slightly older teenagers. In other words, the film loses its spooky edge for the sake of reaching a broader audience, and in effect loses its soul. This is essentially a near word-for-word replay, only with certain changes to the story to fit the American demographic, and the lack of outright spookiness is balanced, or at least tried to be, by the usual idiotic trend of telegraphing every supernatural event with loud noises on the soundtrack miles in advance. In an effort to explain the phenomena behind the story, Sebastian Gutierrez draws on the fringe theory of cellular memory, which is when the peptides from the new organs transplanted to donor recipients mix in with their bodies, causing a mild psychic effect that drives the new owners to repeat their donor's behavior. Although in truth, the idea that a person can share the psychic vision with their eye donor is ridiculous. Cornea transplants like changing the windscreen of a car. Other organs, yeah, that could be possible, but not really corneas. There are no peptides found in corneas. Also notable is the fact that Sydney can hear the dead too. Did the corneas hijack her ears as well? Although, to be honest, that would logic for actually appear in the original film as well. To be honest, I wasn't that entirely enthused about a remake to Seeing Ghosts, or The Eye. The original film was a solid effort at least, but the story is practically a one-off. The sequels are caught in a narrative bear trap trying to replicate the success of the original but with different rationales for their premise, and copying it for the US market was a pretty dumb if understandable move. The cast are competent enough, while for lead Jessica Alba, whose bread and butter features involve her wearing bikinis or skin-tight superhero suits with very little of her body left to the imagination, does passably well as Sydney Wells. And to be honest, they actually did some research. The filmmakers did research into the world of the deaf, and they handled the credibility well. But otherwise, Jessica Alba is just too bland to carry on the film on the shoulders due to a character that's, well, too bland. If you've seen the original film first, this rejig is pointless, but if you're new to the story, the remake might just manage to carry the story across. But in any case, just watch the original. The only thing both films have in common is that they each have two directors working on them. Now for the gore report. Not really a gory film due to the PG-13 rating in the US, or M rating here in Australia, which is similar, although there is a small body count. As for nudity, no nudity here, although with Jessica Alba known for wearing skimpy clothing, there could have been something here, despite the fact that Alba doesn't seem to like burying herself in her films. I give this remake a C, a 4 out of 10. An average remake that is inherently pointless, but if you're not the type to watch foreign films and don't like reading subtitles, then this will get the point across mostly enough. As for the DVD, the DVD was issued by Paramount in Region 4 in two different covers. The first with Jessica Alba on the cover, and the second with an eye with a hand coming out of it. I have heard that there is a skeleton disc available without most of the extras, but I can't confirm that at this stage. The DVD of the standard version has a pretty good picture quality and a decent English Dolby Digital 5.1 sound mix that has some creepy sounds coming across at certain times. although there is also the usual Hollywood plethora of audio signposting present here, as I've already mentioned. There's quite a few extras, basically featurettes on how Jessica Alba prepared for the role, how they talked to the blind to research the story, and even the part where the directors were playing with cars when they were storyboarding the tank explosion at the end of the film. And also that Jessica Alba really can't play a violin. In fact, I noticed that if you watch the climax, actually the ending, you can see that the string thing that Alba is holding in her hand for the violin, it's not actually touching the violin. You can see, if you observe, you can see it's not even close. And with the English subtitles for the film are accurate enough, and the disc itself has a mildly freakish menu design. Anyway, happy Easter, and that's it for this review.